I'm Megan.
I'm CJ.
And I'm Erica.
And this is the Her Podcast.
Today we're sitting down with women's fitness specialist Colin Jackson and talking about all things women's fitness and hormones. Colin specializes in working with women aged 35 and over to work with your hormones to support your body and find the correct physical exercises to feel good and not overwhelm you or your schedule. Colin is so great. We absolutely loved sitting with him. We really went all over the place, including why he got into working with women, primarily at the age of like 35 and older, how growing up in his childhood led to this, and so much more. We know you guys are going to enjoy it, so turn it up.
He came prepared, you guys.
Prepared for even the mic situation.
Why would you want a whitewater canoe?
For fun.
Great.
Yeah.
Sounds like a blast.
It's actually, so I grew up in La Ronde, right? Which is like 3.5 hours north of here. And I grew up, I was 17 years old when I found out that whitewater canoeing is a thing.
Well, I knew like whitewater, like I'm picturing like the kayaking.
Whitewater
is
rafting.
what I'm picturing.
Yeah.
Like when people go in the kayaks and it's like wild.
And were they like, this is just like not hard enough. Let's go in a canoe.
Yeah. Like there's I guess there's a lot of more like skill involved. Well, there's not that there's not skill involved in the other rafting and kayaking, but to my understanding, which I haven't done this in like almost 20 years. So my understanding is that you have to plan out your moves like a longer time ahead because the canoe doesn't respond as quickly as a kayak does.
Right.
Yeah.
Which that actually makes sense because I had a friend who went and canoed solo for like 15 to 30 days. I'm going to go wide range because I don't remember the amount. It's probably like 20 somewhere in there.
Yeah.
In Alaska.
Oh.
Yeah. And had to like canoe through like when you hit whitewater and you're like she's like split second decision, you have to like watch the water and like chart your path, and I'm like that just sounds like so much anxiety.
I would be on the shore waiting for somebody to come get me.
My cortisol would be through the roof.
That's good though. That's what you want it to do because that'll linearize your thought process and be able to like really focus in and get the thing accomplished. That's true. Right?
Fight, flight.
Yeah. That's what cortisol's for.
Yes, which we're talking about it. Talk to us about that because I feel like it's a little bit of a buzzword, and I feel like possibly I know when I talk about it negatively because I feel like my cortisol is I think up in points when it maybe shouldn't be up all the time. So I'm like, talk to us about what is cortisol? How is it actually good? How could it maybe be a negative at times if it's like too high, you know what I mean? But like, let's demystify it.
Well, you got to have it. Like it's really important. But the way to know that if it's too high is take a 4-point cortisol test.
Which is?
How we do that?
I think you'd have to get it ordered by your physician.
Okay.
Or if there's like those like, those like funky health labs that are popping up where they do IV drips and things
I'm into
like that.
those.
Yeah, you can ask them about them too. But what they do, I'm pretty sure it's a salivary test, and they do it at 8 a.m., 12 p.m., 4 p.m., and 8 p.m. And what you want to see is like a spike in the morning, but then a gradual coming down in the afternoon. So if it's not that, if it's like wicked high, like all the time, then you got problems. But it's also being too low is a problem too. Yeah.
What should a gradual feel like? Because I feel like you're probably like, you've got that figured out pretty good for yourself.
Or this.
Yeah. I've never, full disclosure, actually taken a 4-point cortisol test. I'd imagine though, I'm probably a pretty high cortisol person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm like, up a lot of times.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you find that to be a positive, or are you like, I'm like, for me, it's like anxious, if I'm too cortisol-y too much of the day.
Yeah.
It's like cortisol-y.
Like I feel like I'm cortisol-y right now.
Yeah.
Because you're so excited to be here with us.
I'm like excited.
It's excitement.
Now I'm in the hot seat and I'm like, I'm here.
Whitewater rafting. We're canoeing right now.
Canoed over.
Yeah.
It's okay. You did your workout this morning.
I did.
Right? It probably ate your protein.
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
I saw your Instagram post.
I
this
didn't.
morning your stories about how much protein is this, and you're like, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it doesn't
You're eating
matter.
protein.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
good.
I did that similar post about a year and a half ago, and same thing. Sorry, the correct answer is D. I don't give a AF. We can't swear on this podcast, right?
Yes, you can.
You can.
Okay. Yeah. I don't give a fuck
About how much,
about
as
the
long as you have.
grammage. Yeah, about the actual grammage of protein. Yeah, it's like simplicity is what leads to consistency, right? So consistency is what is going to deliver the result. So the more that you can simplify the system, then the more consistently you can reproduce it, the better results that you get. But if your system is like weighing and measuring every single morsel of macronutrients that goes into your mouth, if you're like us and we live in the real world and not, competing on a show or
Yeah.
like, competing at the Olympics or whatever, then if that's the case, then yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do, right? But that's also not synonymous with health.
Yeah.
So that's
Right.
an important distinction. Yeah. So where was I going with that?
Well, I feel
Protein.
like protein. You were
Yeah.
talking, which like
Measuring.
That's another. I feel like we're gonna hit on so many buzzwords today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean in the fitness industry, because I'm like, you see people talk about the importance of protein, which I think
Yeah.
protein is important. But
It
I
is.
really love that what you're saying is sometimes we, break it down too small, that it just creates this system of like too much rigidity.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Oh yeah, that's okay. So also full disclosure, I'm an ADHD person, so I'm like,
That's okay.
That's great. Welcome here.
Yeah. We'll get along. We'll get along great.
Well, yeah, good.
They're sitting directly across from each other, you guys. This is going to be fun.
Erica's like, I see you.
I see.
Like, I
I
see
understand.
you. Yeah. What's that from Avatar? I see you.
I just watched that a few
So
weeks.
good.
I've literally
It's
never
so
seen
good.
Avatar. Never
Oh,
seen it.
you
So
gotta go
good.
watch it.
I know. Andrew
Yeah.
yells at me all the time. He's like, "You've never seen all the best movies." I'm like,
Yeah.
"What do you want me to do about it?"
It's
Watch
6
them, I
hours
guess.
of your life, right?
Yeah.
Right.
The best 6 hours of cinema ever.
Okay.
So my thing with protein is
Yeah.
I love the whole like let's not measure things because I can go super focused on it or I'm like not caring at it at all, except that I'm 100% protein deficient. So is there a marker for like, hey, we don't want you sitting here measuring things and over analyzing, but like you're, because I think I could fall into the realm of like, Colin said it doesn't matter how much protein I'm eating. So I ate like a piece of jerky and like we're good to go. And it's like, okay, that's
Yeah.
probably not enough protein.
Correct. What I'm saying is you don't have to measure your protein on a food scale. Yeah.
Yes.
Or count on an app.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
Okay, so
Yeah.
how do we know that we're okay? Multiple questions following off of what Erica said.
Yeah.
How do we know we're getting enough protein then? Is there sort of a number? Is it like a gram of protein per weight
Is
that
it like-
you like per pound that you weigh?
3
Yeah.
palms of protein a day. That's what his Instagram story was like.
Yeah.
This is a palm. I was like, love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Depends how big your hand
yes,
is,
and
though.
yes.
That's
and-
true.
and-
My
and yes.
palm versus like Andrew's palm. Like, okay.
Yes.
Big palm. Okay, get into it. Get
Whose
into it. Get
palm
into
are
it.
we using to
Okay.
measure the protein?
I am so happy you're asking these questions. Okay. So let's I'll just go this way.
Okay, just go. You're fine.
Okay, so it's a little nuanced, but we'll bring it back into
Okay,
real
great.
world. So for a woman who is not in perimenopause, you want to aim for about 1.8 grams of protein per kilogram,
Okay.
Not pound.
not pound.
Okay, we need to
1.8
calculate.
grams
This
per
is just
kilogram.
creating more work for me.
Right?
Okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
You can hire him.
I'm getting
We're
my
gonna
phone.
help you out.
You keep, I'm gonna get my phone.
Just getting her phone.
She's
Perfect.
taking notes.
Yeah, we'll
Or no, I'm
calculating.
gonna
we'll go
do
this way
calculation.
and then
I'm
we'll
gonna calculate
simplify
it.
it
Okay.
yeah, into
Keep
real
going.
world. So 1.8 grams of protein when you're in follicular phase.
Okay.
Oh no!
When-
See, now you've lost me.
Erica's like, I don't,
What?
I don't have an app for
I
that.
have enough brain space for one thing.
You know the new Apple Watch,
Yeah.
the Apple Watch 8, it tracks body temperature.
Yeah.
So you get some feedback into where you are in your cycle.
Interesting.
Yeah. The Oura Ring also does it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely
So
want one of those.
one way that
Do you
you
have
can.
one?
No.
Okay.
I feel like I'm like, yeah, I don't count. Or what was the other thing I said? The 4-point course. I've never done a 4-point cortisol test. I don't do food or fitness trackers.
We're gonna do as you say, not as you do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And then 2 grams per kilo when you're in, especially in that late luteal phase. So that week leading up to your bleed.
Okay, so I am always like, I need all the protein when I'm like near my period or on my period.
Yep. There you go.
Yeah.
So if you're in perimenopause, which that one's a little tricky. It's like, well, how do I know if I'm in perimenopause?
Which
right?
can we talk about that?
Please.
Because I think that's not talked about enough. Like that there's an in-between phase and what that actually is.
Yeah. It's so there's, it's like a, how can I say this? It's very gray, right? Like there's no definitive like
time.
Like last year you're 42 years old and not in perimenopause whatsoever, but now boom, you're in perimenopause full blown. Like for some women it is like that, but for a lot of others it's very like kind of more gradual. Like your periods might start getting closer together. You might start feeling like body temperature regulation is more challenging, brain fog kind of things. Like it's hard to focus a lot of times, which, if you layer on top of that, like neurodivergence, that's,
Welcome to life.
They did the avatar
right.
thing
So
again.
like,
You
yeah.
guys.
Like, welcome to the club.
And then if it's feeling really hard to just like recover from workouts, that could be an indication too. There's a whole bunch of symptoms, and like I'm sure you could just Google like self-assessment tools. I have
Can you
some
go
in the
talk
back
to your
of my
doctor
head.
about it?
You can if you have a really good doctor.
I was like, what's happening over here?
Yeah. So, okay. Just as this is a little anecdote from personal experience. So, my wife is older than me, not by much, but in enough now where I'm like, oh yeah, babe, I think you might be getting into some hormone things going on.
I'm sure she loves that.
Yeah. She's like, I'm still young. I'm like, yes,
But our
you
bodies
are.
change.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to have a second.
Let me pull out the
what
graph.
our bodies are
Yeah.
doing conversation
Yeah.
even later on.
Yes.
Totally. Yeah. So I suggested like, you know what, like maybe let's just get some labs, like let's just see what's going on. So she went to our family doctor, and he was like, yeah, we can order a lab up. Didn't say at what point in her cycle to order the lab, which I think is probably a good thing. Like, anyways, so what he said was, the only thing that we would really do for you is put you on the pill.
Oh,
I'm like,
For what?
because of lack of estrogen.
Oh,
So let's just put you on the pill to up that estrogen.
that's a big no for me.
Big no for me too.
Yeah.
All of us.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a letdown. So you can ask your family doctor about it if you've got a good family doctor.
And I think I more so meant even to just like be like, am I in perimenopause? To go to your doctor and be like, is there a test you can do to figure out if you're actually in it?
Not really.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just like symptoms based.
Yeah, symptomology, basically.
Great.
Yeah, so no, there's not really any definitive like lab analysis that would say, as far as I'm aware, I mean, maybe somewhere in the States or like, I don't know, that's available. But as far as I know, at the time of this recording, it's just mostly symptomology.
Okay, I want to just like bring something back here for a second because we're talking about hormones. So I just kind of want to like take it back to, why are we talking about hormones with you? what it is that you do, and why you have a big part of your business is women's hormones.
Yeah, well,
Or even health.
Yeah. So it's a big part of my business is helping women over 35 sort of getting into those perimenopausal years. And for me, understanding what's happening on a hormonal level gives us really good information, and it helps us to like optimize their training program, their nutrition, so that it actually works for them, as opposed to it not working for them, which is what you get in the fitness industry as a whole.
Would you call yourself, what would you call yourself?
I would call myself a women's fitness specialist.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. So I'm wondering why you got into fitness specifically, you know, and I've seen a post recently on your social that talked about you wanting to outlive your dad. And so I'm wondering if you can even touch into your story and sort of maybe why you even started journeying into fitness and what that really means at the root and the core for you.
Yeah. So I got into fitness when I was about 16, 15 years old. It's an old high school gym up in La Ronge, Saskatchewan. So like the gym was about the size of this room. Carpet looked similarly.
Sorry about that one.
No,
That was the landlord, not me.
This is a very beautiful carpet.
No, it's not.
It's not.
It's not. You can
Flashbacks.
Yeah.
It's all
You're
good.
fine.
Yeah.
You
He's
don't have to
triggered right
compliment
now.
us.
It's not bad. I like it.
Could be better.
You're
Yeah.
really nice.
So, and then like the Axe deodorant spray, because that was just coming out when I was like, you know what I mean?
remember
Yeah.
that well. Yeah.
So you can just get that vision, and then like just this old clanky, like rusted barbells and dumbbells, and just like this super. So that's where I got my start in fitness.
How inspiring.
Yeah, right. I feel like it's like a little bit of Rocky story. I don't know.
Love
Oh,
it.
there we go.
So I wasn't athletic growing up at all. I was kind of like I was nerdy. I still am highly nerdy. Like that's just I love that about myself now. I didn't used to, but I do now. And so I was always constantly picked on because my brain works differently. I don't like I always told myself I'm socially awkward, like, but I realize now that it's just how my brain's wired. But I got picked on a lot, like really bullied, up until I was about 14, 15 years old, once I started finding the weight room. And that was like a way for me to get in my body. I wouldn't have said that at the time, but now I know that it was a way for me to get in my body, a way to start feeling stronger in my body, because I wasn't feeling strong, not only in my body, but just mentally, emotionally, as a person who I was, type deal. And I end up just loving it. So that's kind of what my origin story is with fitness. Then I started like, you know, getting the protein in, you know, doing the creatine thing. Like just
like
this-
what was that protein called that all the boys said? Creatine.
Yeah, creatine, which is very important for women in perimenopause.
Okay.
So let's just put
Side
a pin
note,
in that.
we're just gonna-
Side note
yep.
that. We'll circle back.
Yep.
Because it's
Will
like,
we though?
Are we
You two
trusting
might.
you two?
we still got to circle back to how to get like actual protein in real,
We're
you
gonna
know,
circle back to protein in general.
Yeah.
You know what? All the people listening with neurodivergent brains are going to really appreciate this
Yeah.
Like,
conversation.
yeah.
get
You
it.
know?
The-
Let's highlight it. I'm here for it.
It's like we're taking the long way around.
Yes.
Like we're dancing a dance here.
Yes.
You know?
That's
We're
great.
wooing
Beautiful.
people,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Hooking people. Stay tuned.
Totally.
Yep.
So yeah, and then I end up like getting stronger, got some muscles, and then was feeling better about myself and less bullying. But I didn't continue in that path professionally. I got into the trades when I was about 19 to 20 some years old. Got into carpentry, became an apprentice. And then that's when my father passed away. So I was 24. Yeah, he was young. He was
How old is-
56. Yeah. And fitness was still a hobby, like still like but it wasn't, I wasn't approaching it the same way I do now, which is more from a holistic health perspective. So when he died, I remember my aunt saying like, "You boys got to get your hearts checked. Like, you know, you got to like," and I knew
He had a heart
because he had a heart attack. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's so young.
Yeah. And his brother was, I believe, mid-50s too. His brother was significantly older than him, probably like 10 at least years older than my dad was. So he died about at least, probably 15 years before my dad passed, but he was also in his mid-50s.
Wow.
And my dad's dad died mid-60s. On the other side, on my mom's side, on both sides, there's a lot of addiction and trauma,
okay.
and we can talk about that too. So both, I have two uncles that have passed away, same thing, mid-50s, So the men in my family don't live very long.
You're like, this is not a great
like,
track record.
We're going to
Megan, you're
change
like-
that. That's like, that is
Yeah. So
wild.
So
Which that might feel scary at first when you like connect the dots.
yeah.
If you are on the market to buy or sell a home, or maybe both, and want to make the process as stress-free and smooth as possible, then I have the realtor for you. Lacey Cazette is an award-winning Saskatoon realtor who prides herself in being your one-stop shop for both buying and selling. And her passion for her work just shines through when you meet her. Lacey has over 12 years experience in the real estate industry, a 98% list to sale ratio, and she prioritizes an extensive and personalized marketing strategy for each of her clients. Because we all know that the best strategy is more important than ever now. Along with her husband and partner, Kyle Berneski, Lacey is licensed in residential, commercial, and farm. So she literally has you covered no matter what real estate area you need. And because she's built such solid connections in the industry, she can dial up the best lawyers, mortgage brokers, appraisers, and contractors for you too. Lacey has also given us an exclusive discount code for her community. You can use the code LACY5 to save $500 off one real estate transaction. You guys, that's huge. So if you want a driven, hardworking, and connected agent who'll go above and beyond for you, this is a no-brainer, guys. Get in touch with Lacey. You'll find her at Realty Executive Saskatoon or on socials at Lacey Cazette. That's at LACEYCOSSETTE, and online at lacycazette.com. And remember to mention the code LACY5 to save $500 on one real estate transaction. We're linking all her info in the show notes for you.
Well, and I just look and see how did they live their lives, right? There's only so much I can control.
Right.
Like if I have some genetic heart thing, like, we'll find that later in tests, I guess, if I want to. But it's really important for me to do the things that I need to do to take care of myself. And, we talked earlier about being a high cortisol person, and that's a thing that I know I need to deliberately manage my stress. And by that, I don't mean manage the things that cause me stress. I need to actually deal with the stress in my body.
Talk about the difference.
So the difference is like the dealing with the stress in your body is totally within your control. There's some things that are in your control and not in control of, that are the things that cause you stress, like the stressors. So dealing with the stress is actually dealing with the cortisol, the higher levels of catecholamines, and just like your body's physiological stress response, that sort of stress cycle that we can control, that we can end through different ways. So that's what I'm talking when I'm talking about dealing with the stress. And then once I do that, like once I'm actually like, okay, let's do some breathing exercises. All right, let's I got to reach out to a friend or like get connected to my community. And do the things that and exercise, of course, and time spent in nature. I have a whole bunch of different things that I do.
Love.
Not all at the same time, but
Habit stack it.
Yeah.
You were going to say it too.
Habit stack it. Yeah.
I think it's really important that you made that distinction of dealing with the stress inside our bodies versus the stress the things that are stressing us out.
Yeah.
That's a really important distinction.
Yeah. Because what that does for me and for many others, especially the clients that I work with, is that kind of positions you in a better way to then deal with the stress, the stressors, the things that cause you stress.
I want to just circle back to, how did the men in your family take care of themselves? How did they treat themselves? Was there a pattern?
Alcohol.
Okay.
Mostly alcohol.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I say like, because when you ask how do they take care of themselves,
they didn't.
That's how they medicated.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. Like, so they're every one of my family members has sort of gone through some trauma in their lives, and a lot of it is intergenerational.
Yep.
On my mom's side, it comes from residential schools and colonization. So there's that, and then on my dad's side, like my grandfather, my dad's dad, was in the war. So passed on a lot of that sort of war trauma and PTSD. And my grandmother was committed to the hospital, like the psychiatric hospital many times. You know, that was in those days, it was like in the 50s and 60s, right? So like, oh, you're just hysterical. Like, let's cut out your uterus. Like, no,
Wild.
that's not,
Wild.
you know, like, no, she's dealing with an insane alcoholic at home. We should probably put some trigger warnings up.
We can.
We will.
Yeah.
So, you know, so that left my dad severely traumatized, you know? So that's how they all took care of themselves, was medicating through substance.
What did that look like for you then, having that, you know, generational trauma coming, you know, and even your home life specifically?
I'm so curious too, to add on to that, is when you realized what was happening and you put a name to it and you were like, I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm stopping this.
Yeah. So I grew up, my home, so I grew up in a dysfunctional home.
Yeah.
There was no alcohol present in my home, but I still suffer the effects of alcoholism. So
Explain that.
So alcoholism, it's a family disease, right? And even though there's no apparent addiction in the household, you can still pass on the traits by, you know, emotional neglect, which is abuse, physical violence, and like emotional abandonment. And those things are all things that I grew up with, and that really impacted, like, that's why I was the 14-year-old who didn't feel like any sense of who I was as a person, didn't feel strong within myself, because I didn't get that validation that I needed from my dad. My mom is an amazing woman. She's done so much of her own work, and she was really involved in the community where I grew up. She was she was really involved in creating the Friendship Center and the women's shelter.
Amazing.
Growing
Wow.
up. Yeah. Which is amazing. That took a lot of time though.
Yeah.
Yep.
And many evenings, meetings, time spent away. So she was doing her thing, helping the community. Bless her soul. Love you, Mom. I'm going out because she's in Saskatoon, so we're gonna head out later. But it left me alone with my dad, who was physically abusive, emotionally neglectful, and just not what I needed as a loving parent. So I think my mom really tried to make up for that, and she really tried. Like, she did try her best, but by that point, like, you know, damage is done, so to speak. So I've had to go through a lot of my own inner healing work, trauma work, grief work, to get to the point where I am today, where I feel like a confident, successful adult who's emotionally there and with it and intelligent despite my neurodivergence. Actually, that for me, I actually see that more of a superpower. Like, I actually feel like I'm more empathic, and I just have a lot of feelings, and for so many years I shut those feelings down because it wasn't safe. It wasn't safe to feel feelings, especially as a man, growing up in my era. So once I opened those floodgates to feel all my feelings again, it was just like, yeah,
Jello.
Total. It's exhausting.
It is exhausting.
Yeah.
I saw this thing the other day, and it was a reel, and I related to it a lot. And it was talking about like empaths, and it was like one of the hardest or most painful thing for an empath to do is like try to shut down their feelings, like try to be like, I'm going to the action of trying to not feel is like even when because they're like, I don't want to, like, this hurts me, this relationship hurts me, so I'm gonna like not feel. That is like one of the hardest things they can try to do. So then I can only imagine when you finally are like, I'm just gonna feel my feels.
Would have felt like maybe the floodgates opened, you know, like the dam broke.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
totally.
don't know what that felt like. What did it feel like for you?
It just felt like a big mess of crying and yelling and screaming. And
What age did this sort of start to happen at?
it's been a process.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure. It's been years.
Yeah.
The year was 2016, and
Picture this.
I had done my first dose of psychedelics.
Because I
to,
want
tap
that-
into those.
Can we
things.
get into that?
Because that's like the top of my list.
Is it?
Literally,
Literally.
we were like,
Yeah.
you've talked about heroic doses,
Yeah.
you know, of psilocybin.
Yeah.
And so we would love to know.
I wouldn't do that again.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I wouldn't do a hero's dose again.
Okay.
Okay. Tell us what a
Well-
hero's dose is versus a
I might do
micro dose. He's like, we'll see.
Wow.
See how it
never
plays out
say
later.
never. Never say never.
I
Who
wanna-
knows? Maybe 20 years. Go ahead.
Let's pin. How did that journey start for you when you started taking psilocybin? Tell people who don't know what psilocybin is, what it is.
Yeah, so magic mushrooms.
Yeah.
There's like so many species or varieties. I don't know what the
I would say
nomenclature
variety,
is.
maybe.
Yeah. I'm not like a regular avid user of these things. I go in very intentional.
Yeah.
So I've done I've done 3 significant journeys in my life. The latest one was top notch, top
Okay.
shelf. Yeah.
I'm gonna transition and pick up some of the pins that we put in things. Let's go back. You're like, what is she talking about?
Protein pin.
Yeah.
I'm like, let's go back to protein.
If I hire Colin, am I going to be taking mushrooms?
No, but I want you to quickly just maybe before we pick up the pins.
Great.
I just want you to quickly talk about why you chose to do that as part of your spiritual practice and maybe what other pieces you use for your healing, because I know you're big into somatic practices, how that all supports each other and how it fits in to fitness.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like those things aren't like, they're like almost my brain compartmentalizes them.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, I feel like Colin when he's not working, and then I have like all this other side of me, but they are very connected for sure. Okay. So I had been going to, or I have been going to, I still go. It's amazing. It's like a recovery program for people like me who have grown up with childhood abandonment and hearing other people's stories. And like, it's so funny how aligned it is with my like traditional indigenous way, which is like through storytelling.
Yes.
That's why on my social media, I tell stories.
That makes
that
sense.
makes a lot of
that.
sense.
Yeah. I'm not about the before and after photos or
I love
you
the
know,
storyteller.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm like that. I'm kind of like practicing my craft and getting
Beautiful.
better and better at it. But yeah. So because we heal in community, you know, and then so I've been going to that program, which has helped me immensely to connect to my inner child, to connect to my inner loving parent, and just like become my own loving parent. Because before that, I noticed like I would, you know, still search for like love and approval from my mom because my dad's not around, which, bless her heart, she's got a lot going on. I don't blame her. Mom, I don't blame you for this. But like, it's kind of a bit like going to the hardware store for a loaf of bread. You know, we're just like, we're not going to get there.
Right.
So,
Okay.
so I learned how to reparent myself through love, through compassion, through humor, gentleness, respect, and I've been working that for probably about a year and a half before this most recent plant medicine trip. So I had all those skills
Okay.
going into my trip, which I think really enhanced it.
Yeah.
So, so I've been doing the deep, like, I've been kind of like, I have kind of dabbled in like somatic practices and breath work, but this last year and a half is where I've been really like, okay, like let's get to some goods here, you know, let's like carve out some of these things and deal with the trauma in my body. And
Yeah.
So when you are training, do you talk about this with others? Because we were just talking to a life coach came on our podcast, and she was like, most of the time people come on and they're like, they're stuck in their fitness. And she was saying when she was a personal trainer, whenever she would get on the phone for calls, it was never about fitness. It was always about like what's going on in their life. And right, so people come to you being like, it's like a tip of an iceberg. You're like, here's the problem. And it's like, actually, like there's all this other stuff. Is that something you like work through or talk with the people you're training?
Very selectively. Yeah, very selectively, because somebody has to, and if you're a client watching this and you're like, we haven't talked about any of that shit.
You have not been chosen.
Well, no, it's not that. It's
I think I know what you're gonna say.
yeah, it can bring up some stuff, you know,
Sure.
and it can really like if you're not ready for it, it can really sort of.
Well, and you're not a therapist.
And I'm not a therapist.
Yeah,
man.
you're like yep.
Like I know how this stuff impacts
Your health,
but like I'm not
trained in how to open.
Yeah, like
we heard this once that someone was like, they were speaking at an event and they were a therapist, and we went to listen to them, and it was kind of underwhelming. And afterwards, it was explained like he was like, I can't open people up without closing them.
Yeah.
Like I can't enter into a conversation that I can't wrap up.
Yeah.
It's too dangerous to like leave someone basically being like. And I think it's actually what we're seeing a lot in life right now is people breaking down their systems and not knowing how to like
Put them back
put
together.
it all back together.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Psychedelics
sometimes
help to put it all back together.
But I am curious on how you landed, because like you're not only in women's fitness, but you're in like 35 and older.
Yeah.
Like how did you land there that you were like, these are my people?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I know now that a lot of that has to do with my neurodivergence. So
much happiness.
Pictured of the clip back and forth of like you guys just say to each other. I was like, that's gold. Anyways.
So solid question, because I've asked myself that a lot. I'm like, what, like almost like imposter syndrome. Like, what am I doing in this space? Honestly, like I'm a man. I identify as a man, and that's a good. Let's just like, I just also want to acknowledge that this is, even though with the work that I do with women over 35 and we talk about hormones and perimenopause and things like that, I think I just want to acknowledge that that like folks that don't identify that, or that are say maybe are like non-binary, so like, or like trans women, for sure, like I want to say that trans women are women, so let's just like put that out there. So and acknowledge their existence as women. That is a whole other area that's outside of my skill set and expertise. So I've been asked that question, like, oh well, what about trans women? For sure valid, for sure worthy and deserving of qualified expert and a specialist who can really help those people help get that person get healthy in a way that's in alignment with what their physiology is.
Well, and I think
Right?
I've seen on your page, like sometimes, I'm pretty sure I've seen in your stories where like, you'll be like, come, like, let's have a conversation, book a call with me. And if I'm actually not the right trainer for you, I'm going to let you know, and I'm going to recommend someone else.
Totally.
And I've always, I
really admire that.
really admired seeing that, to be like, you're going to be like, yep, this is someone that like is in my skill set and in my knowledge of expertise that I want to work with.
Well, and we need to be okay with that too. Like having those conversations that go, like there is actually someone better suited for you.
Yeah.
Because I'm not the expert in this.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I get that.
Like I could do a deep dive and learn all about it, but that's going to take me time, and part of learning about it is like acquiring the experience. So like if you want to be a guinea pig for me to like try new systems on, but I don't think that's the right solution. I think like I have a network of people that I refer to, like, like work with this person. They're phenomenal, amazing.
Yeah.
Like you deserve it. You're worth it.
Yeah.
Like for sure invest in that, because that's going to really help.
Yeah.
So that's just not me. So getting back to your question though, how did I find myself in this field? So I've been a trainer for like since 2013, I want to say. So in my career, most of my clients have been women. And in the last sort of, I want to say 3 years, since since 2020, since COVID, since all of us fitness professionals were like sort of forced to go online. I'm like, okay, how can we make this like online thing really work, right? And so then I started like just putting it out there. Hey, like I'm an online coach now. Like this is what I do. I coach people online. And I would like talk about these things like, you know, not calorie counting and not restrictive dieting and, you know, fuck macros, all this kind of stuff. And like, let's just like keep it simple in the real world. And, you know, it's not about your physical appearance. Like it's about health. Like, so as I'm like sharing all of these things, what ended up happening was more and more women over 35 were responding. They're like, yeah, I want your help. So, and then I was like, so I would put together like really good training programs, like still really good. My approach has always been way different than what the majority of the fitness industry is. But I found that like, some of my clients, women over 35, aren't responding the same way some of my male clients are. What's happening here? You know? So then I'm like, okay, well, like there's got to be systems that are regulating some of the results. And like, that's when I started getting into the deeper dive with, understanding hormones and perimenopause. And then, I studied the work of Dr. Stacy Sims, and there's like, I think she's Dr. Jen Gunter and Dr. Sarah Gottfried, and just a few others. Molly, I gotta mess up her last name. Molly Galbraith, Girls Gone Strong. Okay. Molly from Girls Gone Strong. Studied her work, enrolled in their courses, and that's when I started to really get more confident in understanding how these things work for women. And I realize now that what led to that, what sort of fueled that, is my neurodivergence.
Okay,
so
how?
it's like, so I say that I'm autistic. I'm an autistic person, and when I get a hold of something that really interests me, it's just like,
laser focused.
Laser focused, super like hardcore and understanding all of the different aspects and angles to it. One of the self-assessment tests for autism is like, when you find something you're interested in, do you make it central to your existence? I'm like, that's exactly what I do. That's precisely. I could not have worded it better myself. So
what are some of the other things?
If you like have like really big feelings and like sensory stuff. So for me, like being out in like parties, big social settings, I get all like, ugh. I don't get the rules. I don't understand what the rules are. Like, how am I supposed to be? Like, I know how I'm supposed to be here in this role, so I'm cool. And it's just, you know, the four of us. So like, this is not overwhelming for me.
Right.
But in like larger crowd settings, especially when there's small talk, like as we've experienced through this podcast, like, yeah, let's take the deep dive and go through the stuff, right? Because that's like, I value that like intimate connection, and that's where my brain and nervous system feels comfortable. But when we're just kind of like talking about surfacey stuff, like I'm just like, like, it gets like this. It's like, and then I have to like put on a face. And that's exhausting. I'm like, yeah.
Got it.
I have to pretend like I'm interested in like
your kitchen cabinets.
Right. Which, I mean, I'm not interested in kitchen cabinets.
You're like, bad example. I deep dived.
I don't know why kitchen cabinets came to me, but
yeah.
Hey everybody, we're taking a quick ad break to chat about something I think you're going to want to listen to. If you listened to episode 39, then you know we had a super informative conversation with Kim Fraser, who's an incredible physiotherapist and owner of Still Physio here in Saskatoon. Kim has just recently launched the Still Physio Education Program. This is an online program that offers courses to support you long-term and in between your appointments, which if you got a busy schedule, this is something you're really going to want to take note of. I'm excited to check out the Deep Inner Core and Pelvic Floor series myself. I actually did a lot of pelvic floor work when I was pregnant with both Beatrice and Theodore and was a huge fan of it then, and am looking to incorporate it into my life again now. This program takes you through 6 sections and 2 bonus sections, which focuses on building a strong, sustainable, deep inner core that will help you prevent injury and trust in your body. Each video is less than 40 minutes, and if you're like me and a morning person, this is a great way to start your day or bookend it. I highly encourage you to head over to stillphysio.ca to sign up for Still Physio Education and start the Deep Inner Core and Pelvic Floor series. Also, while you're there, check out the other courses offered. You can connect with Kim and follow Still Physio on Instagram at Still Physio. Head to stillphysio.ca to sign up for Still Physio Education. And if you haven't listened yet to episode 39, go and download. It's definitely a must listen. So because of this, you were like very interested in this topic.
Got really fascinated about it. And then started seeing where the fitness industry fails women over 35.
Which is?
Like,
Ooh, let's go into that one.
Hit on some top ones for us.
Switch legs. Okay. All right, get comfy. I'm ready.
He's like, I got to adjust.
That
was a real crack.
That was good.
I was saving that one.
Yes.
So where does the fitness industry fail women over 35?
Yeah.
It's in so many areas.
I was going to be like, everywhere.
Yeah. So the fitness industry
Maybe
as
some
a
of the
whole,
big ones.
I think it's getting better. It's getting better now, but still there's some, and we can talk myth busting and whatnot, but, really hardcore workouts, like
high intensity
workouts, hit, but not hit.
Yeah.
Another pin in that one. So it also, so fitness industry also is so connected with diet culture, right? Like where there's this, still this ideal image of what beauty is. And in order to get that, you have to do all these, like, weigh your food and, all of these things. And it doesn't work for women on a human level. And also on a physiological level, because that's the stuff that elevates cortisol. And when you're going through perimenopause, progesterone isn't as abundant as it used to be. So that kind of impacts your body's ability to recover and to mitigate cortisol. That's why your training frequency has to decrease. Where else does it fail women?
Would you say like a main factor is not taking hormone health into consideration?
Yes, definitely. I think the fitness industry as a whole still trains women like they're men.
Yeah.
So how that actually looks, and also like men bodybuilders, right? So there's still so much of fitness industry culture that is kind of stems from a male bodybuilding perspective, right? So like working one body part at a time, like, okay, it's leg day. Now we're going to go in, we're going to hit, 4 sets of 10 of lunges, and then 4 sets of 10 kickbacks, and then 4 sets of 10, whatever, or even higher, 4 sets of 12, 4 sets of whatever. And women's bodies are just not built for that.
What are women's bodies built for?
Lifting heavy.
Okay.
Like really lifting heavy, especially in perimenopause.
Why?
Question.
Well, why? Why lifting heavy? All I'm thinking about is lifting my child. Is that why we're meant for lifting heavy? Because we got babies in both hands.
Because your body responds more favorably to it.
Okay.
Yeah. So part of the thing that happens in perimenopause is because estrogen is declining, estradiol, particularly there's 3 types of estrogen. So estradiol is like the most potent one. That's the one that's produced in your ovaries. So because that is on a steady decline, then that really inhibits your body's natural ability to maintain your muscle mass.
Right.
And to keep your muscle contractions. So in order to kind of offset that or mitigate that, like lifting heavy with like short, sharp, really intense workouts, but with long recovery.
Okay. So what would that look like?
Like, do we need more time between sets?
Yeah.
And like good rest.
Yeah.
Good diet. Low low stress management or like
High stress management,
Yes.
low stress.
Low stress. Yes.
Yeah.
So we're not working out every day. We're working out.
Like every other day.
Every other day.
Like 3 to 4 days a week. Sweet spot.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and within each workout, this is where a lot of my clients struggle, because I program rest times. And when we start off, I'm like, a minute and a half rest.
A minute and a half rest.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
They have that same reaction. Yeah. But
I'm like, let's get it done.
I'm like, and ideally, I would want you to rest for 3 minutes. Because that gives your body more time to replenish and more time to like replenish its ATP stores. Yeah. Right.
And I'm like, oh,
Can we
let's just
bump
get it
that
done.
up a little bit?
Right. 4 minutes? Can we do 4
Erica's
minutes?
like 25
You could go up to 5 minutes.
Am I allowed to take a nap in between?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. No, I do like that. I think
Okay.
that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Personally.
Totally. Yeah. So what that does is that that produces better results when it comes to muscle building.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you think there's a place though for like high intensity workouts that are meant to like get your heart rate going,
Yeah.
like cardio style?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So the way we accomplish that is through sprint interval training.
Yeah.
That's or SIT, coined by Dr. Stacy Sims.
Okay.
So give her a shout out. So that's like 10 to 15 seconds, 10 to 20 seconds, we'll say, somewhere in there. I usually start with 10, and then you can play around with that sort of variable. All out, like super high intense, like freaking like
You're
high.
running for your
You are
life.
running.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
One of those bikes. What is the hill bike?
The Airdyne bike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Those things
I don't
are
know what that
awesome. Oh, you got to find out one day. Yeah. So
She's
they're
like heavy weights and this terror bike.
No.
So that bike is like, that's just a way that we can stimulate that type of stress.
Okay.
Because it's a stress, but it's a good stress, and without like injuring you. So like not burpees. Burpees are terrible.
Great. Thank you for say it again
that
louder.
Burpees are terrible.
Preach.
No human being should be doing burpees.
That's
me
tell my
clapping.
friend that.
You want to know? You don't want to know where the burpee came from?
Yes.
So the burpee came from. Wait, I could be wrong on this one. So the burpee
Tell us
came
anyway.
from. Yeah, this is the story I was told. The burpee came from a military assessment.
I was gonna say it was military, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
and as far as I know, this is how the story goes. It was an assessment to see how quickly a soldier could go from a prone firing position to standing and running.
That makes so much sense.
Which like makes sense that they would need that.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
But we don't.
No.
Yeah.
And of course, in the military, like that, they're also doing like a crazy amount of sit-ups, which just destroys people's low backs. Like people think that military workouts are like, yeah, these are fucking awesome. They're terrible. Like they like soldiers do not have a very long, like optimal sort of career, like lifespan, you know, like if you're really like, if you're a grunt, you know, like
Right.
it's just
Yeah.
not like they get injured, low backs get destroyed, and then there's trauma too. So that's where the burpee came from. But then fitness industry likes to like
Watch
you know,
military.
watch military stuff and be like, oh man, these guys are so hardcore, this is so cool. And then a lot of ex-military also into like CrossFit and things like that, which
Yep.
camaraderie, community, I get it. Yep, totally cool. But for us here, burpees
Burpees are
not
the
good.
worst pain of
Unneeded.
my
Yeah.
existence. I
Yeah.
hate them so much.
They're
We
not
didn't. We
nice.
haven't talked about this yet, but I used to be a massage therapist and a fascial stretch therapist. So that's where I also have a clinical
Also,
background.
did you find one here in Saskatoon?
I didn't.
Oh, okay.
Somebody referred Care by something. I looked them up, but they're not available. So
No, it's no problem.
So, what you were saying this interval training, so you said like 20 seconds all out for HIIT. How long of a recovery is that
like
one?
30 to 40 seconds.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And
I
so
did
how
that the
many
other
are
day.
you doing? So you're doing,
About 4
I'm
of those.
sprinting and then I'm resting and then I'm sprinting and then I'm just,
Yep.
I'm picturing my long driveway right now.
Yeah.
I live in Anchorage.
Yeah.
So
I would
long
do.
driveway.
Do you have hills? You get.
Yeah, we have
y'all
short
got
hills.
hills in
Y'all got
Saskatchewan?
hills. We have like
you
I
know
know
what the
you're-
hills are like.
yeah,
You're thinking
not
like
really.
incline. Like
Yeah,
I did it on my
incline.
treadmill the other day.
I have a treadmill.
Yeah, I mean, like something's better than nothing. You
Yeah.
know, you don't have to get all hardcore about it.
Yeah.
But if you're running outside, I would, if you're not used to like running, safety first. So I like running on an incline because the hill will slow you down, right? So it's a little safer on your joints and your hamstrings and things like that.
Okay.
My biggest fear when I'm like sprinting on a flat surface is like the slowing down. I always feel like I'm gonna like pop a hamstring or something.
Oh.
Yeah.
I did on my treadmill the other day.
Did you?
And I was like, I mean, I've run. I used to be a runner, but my treadmill is now against a wall, which I know is like slightly dangerous because if you like fall off, you can like.
Oh, like the back is against
Yeah,
the wall?
it's against the wall.
Oh yeah.
Right. I do wear the key. I wear the key because I
Yeah.
like I actually heard a story of someone who fell off. They weren't wearing the key and they got stuck in between and like ripped their shoulder.
No.
Basically. Anyways.
Oh, no.
So I was like doing this sprinting thing and I was like every single time I would like hold on until my feet like could get going because I just hop off so that I didn't have like a big.
Yes. So there's no hole in the wall in
No, it's fine. It's risky though. It's a different level of stress.
Risky business.
Risk it for the biscuit.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that we should circle back to, I'd love to talk about protein and
Take that pin out.
creatine. Yes.
Yeah,
Pick
yeah.
up some of those pins
Okay,
as
so-
we
Is
wrap up.
creatine a new thing people are talking about for women? Because I feel like
Yeah.
I feel like I just heard this from someone.
Yeah.
Well, when I think of creatine, I think of like the gym heads in high school with the big bucket of creatine.
Yeah.
So like what
too.
is different?
It's the same molecule. So it's creatine monohydrate. Creatine monohydrate. I'm just going to say that 3 times because creatine monohydrate is really important that you get the creatine monohydrate and not like the creatine HCl or like or creatine phosphate, whatever other thing. Like, go with the monohydrate. It's the cheapest version and it's just better. You don't get any of the weird kidney stuff that happens with the HCl and yeah.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, you're both correct in that like it is something that's kind of more on the scene for women's health. And yeah, I was that gym head in 2003, downing the bucket of creatine and like, dry scooping. That was the thing. It's like,
How did that go down? Anyway.
it doesn't taste bad.
No.
It's just like chalk.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, I also, yeah, anyways. So, I can just eat the same thing over and over again. And be
So can
happy. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, getting back to your question, it was,
Why is
Why is
creatine
creatine
important
good? Okay.
for women? Yeah, would be a good one.
so creatine does a bunch of things. It's involved in like the electron transport chain, which is just how your body makes and uses ATP. And ATP is adenosine triphosphate, which is the energy molecule of life.
Okay.
So creatine does a whole bunch of good stuff for mental health, for your brain. Last I heard, this is maybe a year and a half ago, they were studying creatine for concussions and getting good results.
Okay.
So
that's
the
interesting.
thing. It's worth taking a deep dive over for sure. And it for sure helps like maintain muscle mass and by proxy bone density and those types of things. It's one of those things that's highly beneficial.
So if we were to start taking creatine, I know probably everyone is different, but is there either a formula of how we could calculate how much, or is there just like an average for women?
Yeah, so most of them come with the scoop, and the
Okay.
scoop's measured out. It's like it'll be like 5 grams per scoop for women. I'd probably say 3
Yeah.
3
So a
grams
little
per
less.
day. Yeah, a little bit less.
Okay. Great.
You're just putting it in
And-
your smoothie.
Yep.
Is there a brand that you absolutely love, or just making sure we have that creatine?
Monohydrate.
Yeah. Basically, every supplement company will sell creatine monohydrate.
Okay.
Great.
Just look at the label. Make sure that's like one of the only ingredients, and you're good to go.
Okay. And then protein. Let's circle on that one.
Yeah. Okay. So we talked about 2 grams
Yep.
per kilo
Yep.
when you're in late luteal.
Yep.
We talked about 1.8 grams per kilo when you're in follicular.
Yep.
And then in perimenopause, we want to increase that to about 2.2 to 2.4 grams per kilogram. The reason we want to increase that is because women and men too, we get worse at sort of absorbing protein
Okay.
from the foods that we eat. So we got to like bump it up a little bit.
Okay.
And we need to bump it up because we need to offset the muscle mass loss and things like that. So how to actually apply that in real food is I just look at the palm. It's like whatever fits on the surface area and thickness of your palm is like 1 serving. And 1 serving will be about 20 to 30 grams ish.
Okay.
Which for the data nerds will be like, that's a big range, man. That's like 10 grams variance. Right? Were you thinking that?
I was counting how many palms I'd have to eat.
Well, yeah.
Could you tell my head was like, I was like,
Let's give an average. Let's give an average.
I'm not going to say because then people know what I weigh.
No, I'm just going to say what if
Say it in kilos, then they have
There's
to
a
like, do the
woman
math and they're like, nah, screw it.
150-pound woman
Okay.
in
Aged 40.
I don't know,
Yeah.
35 to 40,
Yeah.
how many palms
Palms.
of protein does she need to eat?
Okay. I'm going to get my phone real quick and we're going to do a little
Okay.
calculation.
I'm just trying to give maybe an average so people can
Yeah,
have a
totally.
pinpoint.
So 150-pound woman
Yep.
divided by 2.25. So that's about 66 kilos. And you said 35 to 40?
Yeah.
So we'll go on the low end. We'll go 2.2 times 66. It's about 145 grams of protein per day.
Oh, great.
Okay.
Not bad. Now, I'm going to say divide by 25, just because that's in the middle of that 20 to 30 palm
Yeah,
size.
okay.
Okay.
And you got about 5.8.
So like 6
So about
palms.
6.
6 pounds of protein.
Yeah. And I would say 5. I would say
Okay.
5, not 6.
So much protein.
Yeah. But that's why so many women struggle.
That is a lot.
Because
I'm
that's-
looking.
I just like opened my Greek yogurt the other day and I was like, hallelujah, which like I knew it was higher in protein, but I just like didn't do the math now that I'm trying to like be more conscious of it. And it's like 17 grams of protein
Nice.
for like a 3/4 cup. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, we're getting close to a palm. So, you know?
Yeah.
Totally.
What are some suggestions you would make then? Like CJ mentioned this Greek yogurt that she's found, which is high in protein, which is amazing. So like a serving of that, great. You've got a palm-ish.
Not quite, but
Not
like
quite.
almost.
Well,
Yeah.
do an extra scoop.
Yes.
But like, what are some quick and easy ways that we can get, at least close to that level of protein in a day without being like, I think people maybe might think that's a lot of meat or like that's a lot of eggs, right? What are we not thinking about that's high in protein?
Different like plant-based sources too, like tofu is great, tempeh is great, edamame
Okay.
is another good one. Dairy, like cottage cheese, is fantastic. I'm somebody who I like eat the same thing
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier.
I will
So it's like you're asking that, I'm like, oh, okay, I got to go back into the vault to be like, what do people actually eat?
Right.
Yeah, you could do like beans too and lentils. Like those have more carbs to them. Yeah, I have a whole thing here. I could show you. You want me to just list off some things here?
Yeah.
Please do.
Yeah, let's
Because
do it.
I'm
I think
literally
this is
stuck
very
on
helpful.
like meat and eggs and peanut butter.
I have
like
a whole
real peanut butter.
I have a whole protein resource guide here
Oh.
at the palm of my hand.
And can we
Amazing.
find that online as well on your website? Do you offer that?
Or we need to work with you.
Yeah, this one's just in my coaching app. So
Okay.
this one particularly is only available for my clients.
So
Okay.
you're getting a sneak peek here, you guys.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got protein powder.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
But do you suggest not whey?
No, whey's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've had some people be like, because whey or like that's egg based, right?
Whey's dairy.
Whey's dairy. Sorry. So because
okay.
people are, I heard someone say you get so much dairy everywhere else that if you can get a different kind of protein in your protein powder, that's better.
Yeah. I mean, this is okay. So
Sorry. I literally was like, the first
Yeah.
thing, let's go down a trail.
yeah, no, this is because I wanted to actually bring this up because I think it's worth mentioning. So yeah, let's definitely circle back to that. Okay, so what do I also have here? So yeah, protein powders, seitan, not Satan like the devil, but that's like it's like a gluten protein,
Extra protein.
which is like it's whatever if you're like fully plant based.
Okay.
Deli meats, like turkey deli style, fantastic kind of go to source.
But turkey, not like ham.
Or ham too.
Okay.
Yep. But yeah, like all kinds of meats, cottage cheese, edamame. That's another. I actually started to really like edamame. Different things like that. But I think this is actually a good segue into a deeper conversation, which is kind of like letting go of all or nothing thinking.
Yes. Let's go
Right.
there.
because I think a lot of my clients that I work with are like, okay, well, what's the most optimal protein source? Like I want to have like the highest. So like is chicken breast higher in protein than Greek yogurt? Because I read the labels and it looks like chicken breast is higher in protein than Greek yogurt. Like we need to keep this simple, because again, we need to stay consistent. So the more simple we can be, and it doesn't have to always be like perfect, you know? So to your question, Erica, is like, should I be having whey if I have dairy in all other areas of my life? If it's if dairy is a problem for you, then yeah, maybe. But if we're just going off of like what some coach or wellness influencer said about like dairy being whatever, maybe, but like your body, like only if your body has a problem with it. And a lot of people's bodies don't have a problem with it. You know, so
overcomplicate things.
Yeah, we overcomplicate things, and
which
we try to get like
the process.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, and then we kind of get stuck in that perfectionism. And if I can't do it perfectly, then what's the point of doing anything, right? So when it comes to like how do we actually apply this in real life, and what are the best protein sources? Like if you look at a label, if something's got like, you know, if you compare the carbohydrate grams to the protein grams, if it's got like 50-50 or a little bit more of protein, like just go with that, you know.
Okay.
It's all good. Most of y'all, we like say, most of y'all are under eating protein anyways.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like just get it in there. Like it's all good. Yeah. Like it's gonna, and you'll notice that the more you do, and you're like, okay, like, you know what, I'm gonna get consistent doses of protein all throughout the day. Man, it's like the lights are on, like you're sleeping better, you're like feeling better, you're not like as your blood sugars stabilize as a result of that. So which means like we're less moody. And I say we because I also, like, if I'm like low blood sugar, I'm like,
hangry's a thing for all genders.
Yeah.
Taught my 6-year-old what hangry was because he was so hangry the one day. I'm like, listen, eat your lunch.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
So yeah, consistent doses of protein all throughout the day.
Okay.
And just like whatever on it. Like if it's got protein, eat it. Yeah. Cause that will also help to mitigate cortisol too. Cause food is like safety, right? So when you have food in your stomach, you're like, oh, like your body's just like, oh, okay, cool. We can just chill
Happy.
now. Yeah. So it has a direct relationship to cortisol.
I just feel like we've covered so much today, and I know that we have some pins that we've like left, but I'm like, you know, there's only so much we can cover in a podcast, you know, at one time, but this has been so informative. And I think that definitely people are going to take away so much from this episode, and we'll have to like maybe have you back to dig into more
Part
of
2.
these things. Cause I'm like, it's so interesting, and we can deep dive into each of the topics. But I'd love to, a question that we ask, which I think you listen to the podcast sometimes. So
I
I'm
do,
like, a
for sure.
question
I have a few of my favorite episodes.
Yay!
Oh my gosh, what are they?
I love the one with Marie Baker. Is that her name?
Marie Barker.
Marie Barker?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Of
you
course.
jive with her.
Oh
For
my
sure.
God. Okay, when she said the thing about like how big is the clitoris?
Yeah.
I actually knew how big it was. But then she's like, look at your hand. And I looked at my hand. I'm like, holy fuck. It's crazy. Yeah, I love that entire episode. Yeah. There was another
so
one
good.
too with Brooke.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, Bullock.
Oh,
Yeah,
you would have
Bullock,
loved that.
Yeah. That was a good one.
Awesome.
There's a few with just you three.
Yeah.
The one with the entrepreneurship and making friends and like that whole thing like got me right in the feels.
I think it got
Yeah.
got
a lot of
us
people
right
in
in
the
the feels.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, thanks for
So,
listening.
yeah,
We
of
really
course.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear from you on either the best piece of advice that you've ever been given or advice that you really love to give to others.
I would say I thought about this question.
Good. You're good.
I know.
You're fine.
It's almost
You're
like built the
totally fine.
anticipation.
Yeah. Dun, dun, dun.
It would be, and I think this is, I'll just make this in context because I'm into fitness. It would be to stop trying to change the way your body looks. And I've gone through my own journey with body image. The reason I say that is because the more I try to like fix my body, like, oh, I'm not happy with this area, it's just this like this downward spiral of like negative thinking about my body. But if I instead shift to like, what does support look like for my body today, and hang out more in that area, man, I'm hitting the gym, I'm like feeling good, I'm drinking lots of water, I'm going to sleep at night, like, you know, all of those things. So it would be to really check, and I totally get that we all have our pain points with our bodies, and I don't think it's wrong to like want to change things, but I would just be like, I would caution against like being too in that mode of like, I need to fix something.
I think there's a beautiful, or not a beautiful, I think there's a balance that probably needs to start happening. I think we see these two spaces where people are either like, I don't love my body and I want to change it, or the other. And I think it was Brooke who even said like, and I'm not knocking the BOPO movement, but I'm like, what about for the people who can't sit in the, I totally love my body, but also not sit in the camp of, I really, you know, there's like that middle ground of being like,
Yeah.
there will always be times when I can't love my body today, but I'm also recognizing that I can't spend my life trying to change it.
Yeah.
Right. And I think sometimes we have these opposite sides of like,
You have to be here,
you
or
have,
you
to be here or here.
Yeah.
And I was having that realization the other day when I was like, I don't sit in those camps. Like I don't sit in those camps.
Oh,
I
that's
sit,
wonderful.
I sit kind of, and I'm not here being like, I figured it out, because your girl has not. But I'm like, I was driving last night and I was like, I can't spend so much time thinking about my body anymore. I was like, I can't
It's
do it. I'm like, it's
exhausting.
exhausting. But also understanding that I know I'm never going to be someone who's like, well, I shouldn't say never, but the expression of like showing my post mommy tummy on Instagram, like probably isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's actually also okay to be like, I don't
Yeah.
know. That
Like,
middle
why do
ground
we-
is kind of what that made me think of.
Yeah, like you see my Instagram, like there's basically 0 pictures of me and my body
Yeah.
on Instagram.
Or anyone's.
Or anyone's.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stories.
Yeah, I really like how you do your
I
stories.
do too.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to something that I stuck with me, which is, I'm going to botch the quote, but I'm pretty sure it's Carl Jung said something about like just hanging out in the tension of the opposites. Yeah. And just like, and just sitting with it and just being with it. And like, yeah, like the one camp over here, the one camp over here, and just like letting those tensions exist. I think that's like,
Well, and I feel like that can be applied to all areas of life.
really.
Like I'm just
Yeah.
sitting here being like, oh my goodness.
It's like,
Yeah.
what if we just acknowledged and accepted that these exist, and we don't have to step into either or
and
both?
I also just think of a hammock, you know, because like that's what holds us in between
I love that.
tension, you know. So I'm
Totally.
like just imagining myself in a hammock in between. You need the tension to hold that up,
yeah.
I love that.
and that's a safe space.
So
Polarity is important.
Yes.
You know, how does the light know that it's light if not for the presence of the dark? You know, and that's kind of one thing that I kind of apply. And what I've realized for me is like the conflict isn't between this or that thing. The conflict is the conflict,
Yes.
right? So if I can just be okay with letting the conflict be what it is, I'm like, okay, cool.
So good.
Yeah.
We
Oh,
really like
that's
that.
amazing. We want to know for our listeners where they can find you, because we're all in love with you and want to get more of your content and what you're about. So let us know where we can find you and how people can work with you as well, and what sort of programs you offer.
Yeah. So my main core offering is my signature 12-week coaching program, working title, calling it the Prime 35 Project. So at the time that we record this, it's so far good reviews from my current clients. They're all like loving it. They're like, I don't know if they're just
Feeding you
trying
what
to tell
you
me
want
something I want to hear, or if it's the truth. I don't know. I have to put an anonymous survey out. But yeah, it's a 12-week like high touch online individualized coaching program.
Okay.
So there's a group component to it, but each person's program is unique to them. So I offer that one-on-one support as well. So that's one way you can work. That's the main, that's the way you can work with me. As we record this, that's the way. And where you can find me, mostly through Instagram. So at coachcolin.fit. Send me a message. Tell me what's up. I'm friendly. I respond. It's me responding.
You're very friendly.
Yeah.
And funny.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very
You're
witty. Good at storytelling. Good at engaging.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Go give him a follow, you guys. You won't regret it.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this episode of the Her Podcast. If you want to follow along with us, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at its.her.podcast. We can't wait to see you there.
Bye.
Adios.